From the studios of SNY here in downtown Manhattan, I'm Tommy D. Welcome to another episode of TKB TV. Joining me once again as we will get into a very heated, maybe very heated, Jeremy Lin discussion. As always, from Sheridan Hoops, Mr. Moke Hamilton.
Don't worry, I'll take it easy on you today, I promise.
All right, I'm all the way over here, so I got space. And in between us is our good friend Brian Geltzeiler, the Hoop critic. And you're close to me, and before we went on the air, man, you are heated about Jeremy Lin not being in New York.
This, Tommy, a decade of dumb decisions may have been the dumbest thing I've ever seen the Knicks do. Fact of the matter is the Knicks are a team right now that at best is a 48-52 win team. They are devoid, for the exception of Iman Shumpert, who had knee surgery, we don't know when he's going to be back, February at the earliest, has devoid of trade assets. Jeremy Lin, even at those numbers, was a significant trade asset for the Knicks. Peter Vesey tweeted the other day that if the second offer, essentially, where the offer sheet was signed, had been the first one, the Knicks would have matched. So anybody wants to say it's about luxury tax is full of it, Tommy. It is not about luxury tax. It's about Jim Dolan and spite. Sources had told me that Glenn Grunwald, left to his own devices, was prepared to match the offer and told Dolan he'd have Lin out for value sometime before that $15 million balloon payment hit. Dolan said, no, get rid of him. This was an absolute mess on the Knicks' part. They could have added another player. Lin had value out there. Flip him to Utah for Paul Millsap. Flip him to the Sixers for Andre Iguodala. There's guys that could have helped here that Jeremy Lin could have fished for you. An awful decision by Knicks management.
We'll get into the sign-and-trade stuff in a second, but you know what people are going to be talking about. Is this about Chris Paul? When we talk about Chris Paul, we know about the new CBA. We know how difficult making a deal is with all the new rules and restrictions. Chris Paul to the Knicks, improbable or impossible?
Before I actually answer that question, let it go. Okay, Chris Paul to the Knicks. In professional sports, you never ever want to use the word impossible because 3-4 weeks ago, it was impossible for the Atlanta Hawks to trade Joe Johnson.
Impossible for Lin not to be back with the Knicks.
That too. So you never want to say impossible. But that being said, there are so many things in the new collective bargaining agreement that makes it very, very, very improbable for Chris Paul to end up a Knick. And I don't know how much we want to get into the specifics of all of that, but just look at it objectively. If you're Chris Paul and you look at the moves that the Clippers have made this offseason to build a winner around you, I don't think you're going to want to leave that team. Not with Lamar Odom, not with Jamal Crawford, not with Blake Griffin, not with the cast that they've assembled. That's the first thing. Now, as far as the extension is concerned, Chris Paul made news because he turned down an extension offer with the Clippers. But the thing that everyone needs to realize and keep in mind is that the new collective bargaining agreement, what the owners have done is they've taken the incentive away from extending trades. And now with Dwight Howard, Dwight has vowed to become a free agent after this season, no matter what. The same thing with Andrew Bynum. Darren Williams did the same exact thing. The incentive is not there because when you do an extend and trade deal, you're basically getting 2 less years of guaranteed income than if you become a free agent and re-up. So that's why Chris Paul has turned down that extension.
The key of that to me a lot is where Dwight Howard ends up and you know, Paul's comfortability, I suppose, in Clipper land being, you know, the stepchild to the Lakers once again, another superpower team. But getting back to Lin for a second, and I get this question a lot, and I really don't have a great answer for it. Why not a sign and trade? You mentioned guys like Iguodala. You mentioned guys who could actually help. Lin being an asset. Forget about, hey, listen, you know, $5 million, you take the risk, or if it's a luxury tax issue. Forget about that. Why not try a sign and trade?
Well, it's very simple. In the way the CBA is set up, the Knicks were not going to be able to get Jeremy Lin as much money if they had signed him first and traded him that he got in Houston with that $15 million balloon payment.
And we know Lin wanted the money first and foremost.
Money was very important to him, okay? And so that balloon payment in Houston in the offer sheet was more than he was going to be able to sign with the Knicks for, but the Knicks could have matched that. Sources have told me that Dallas was waiting in the wings. So if Houston and Knicks got together to try to come up with a sign and trade where Lin essentially got less money, Lin had Dallas waiting there. He could have gone there and gotten more than what he would have gotten in a sign and trade. So the sign and trade, yes, could it have been an option? It could have, but it provided risk to Houston that they didn't want to take because, let's be frank, Houston is desperate for a point guard.
Absolutely. They need somebody to help fill seats because it doesn't look like Dwight Howard's going to end up there. Is it official? Can you be the person to officially say, Knicks fans, it's time to move on?
Yeah, it's time to move on. I mean, what you have right now, you have a team that is basically giving away all of the limited assets that it had, okay? This is a win-now team. I don't know that the Knicks are better than the Heat or even the Celtics in the Eastern Conference, but with the commitments that they've made to Marcus Camby, Raymond Felton, Jason Kidd, Carmelo, Tyson Chandler, and Marcus Adams, this is your team. And for once, it's time for the Knicks to stop chasing the golden goose and stop sort of looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and say, this is the team. We need to build this team and try your best to best Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals if you get there.
If they can add one more piece, I like Randy Foye, Michael Petrus, we mentioned before, a couple other guys, Carlos Delfino. If they can make one more piece, to me, I think, Lin or no Lin, this has been a pretty successful offseason.
You also got to keep your fingers crossed that Chris Copeland, that he can give you some interior offense, because you can't win a championship without having some sort of consistent scoring from the post.
Now, I don't think this is a championship team, Tommy. I think it's against a 48-52 win team. With that said, I also think it's a better team than they came back with last year. I think Camby adds a dimension that they could use. They'll always have a 7-footer protecting the rim, very good defensive player. Jason Kidd's a guy that this team desperately needed. And I happen to think Felton is a better fit than Jeremy Lin. My issue with not matching Jeremy Lin is not that it was a bad basketball decision, because I think Felton actually is a better fit. I like Ray Felton more than most. I'm impressed with him. I'm a big fan of his game. So from that standpoint, I think the Knicks come back stronger than how they left last season. A guy like Foye, to me, would be a very good fit.
Still need one more guy who can catch and shoot off the post, and I think Foye's that guy. Guys, as always, great stuff. Look forward to seeing you next time.
My pleasure, TD.
And remember, to get all your information on the Knicks and a little NBA, check out the knicksblog.com, part of the SNY.TV blog network. He's Moke, he's Brian. We'll see you next time.